Greetings again, friends. I'm coming to you today, finally, after about a 3-week or so hiatus where I wasn't producing as many video clips. Not that I haven't been thinking through a lot of things. Many things I want to write, many things I want to share, things that God is teaching me, things that I hope will help you and encourage you. But in my situation, I've taken a lot of time and energy to deal with a personal issue that I pray God will use to help in bringing even revival. And I appreciate your prayers on that. But just today, I want to introduce, as I hope to be able to introduce more videos to you more frequently, at least one a week, maybe more as God leads. I want to do this to just share what God's doing and things that can encourage you and can help you in your daily life, especially in these days that are very trying for us personally and as a country and the whole world. But there's something that happened back in 2001 that changed the course of the history of the world. And that was 9/11/01. And most of you who watch this will know, if not remember, the experience you had on 9/11. Now, 9/11 changed the world because of what happened when terrorism came to this country of America, and about 3,000 people lost their lives. And more would have if people hadn't stood up and taken a stand and even sacrificed themselves so that other things wouldn't be lost or other people killed. Well, there was a similar thing that happened to me personally and that impacted the world also, with all the lockdowns that occur in schools and other places on 4/16/07. And that was the Virginia Tech tragedy. And that tragedy led to the changes in my own life because of my own life being personally impacted in many ways from that, and led to a book that I wrote about that. Well, in the time period that I was dealing with everything that was happening to me in the aftermath of that tragedy, when the town of Blacksburg, Virginia was like in shock, and the whole surrounding community of Christiansburg and even Roanoke and beyond, as it rippled out, it was like a sense of shock and paralyzation. And people didn't know what to do or what was going to happen next, or if there'd be another shooting, or if it would cause the trouble that it did. Well, here we are today. We're dealing in 2020 with something that has impacted the world and put the world in a sense of shock, in a sense of paralyzation often, if you will. I've written about this some. I've lived through it with what happened to me personally in Blacksburg, Virginia. I recognize some of the same patterns and things that happen in the reaction or overreaction of government officials and authorities dealing with tragedy and things that occur. But in the aftermath of that Virginia Tech shooting, as I was seeking to minister to different people, God brought something along my path that made a difference in the course of history that even ties back to 9/11/01. And what had happened to me personally in that shooting on 4/16/07 caused me to lose my family, caused me to lose my children. Might lose something with the wind out here today. It's nice to be outside, but quite windy today. But it caused me to lose a lot. And in the course of what I lost, I began to be able to more appropriately learn how I could minister better to other people. Well, there was one person in particular that I was introduced to in the aftermath of that tragedy, and his name is Shane Carter, and he's become a good friend of mine, and I recently was able to reconnect with him and his family, and it just reminded me again of this great thing that happened. And this great thing that happened is what happened with the power of prevailing prayer. Now, about 3 months ago, or a couple months ago, I had put out a video about pray like never before in relation to what's happening with the coronavirus and the shutdown and what needs to happen. And I think I've got another video that I want to produce that talks about when not to pray. But in this video, I wanted to share with you the account of what happened with the power of prevailing prayer. And so I wrote a blog that it was posted on my website, and I trust can still be seen there. And it is called Faith and the Power of Prevailing Prayer. And it was with this man, Shane Carter, who actually signed the bottom of this as a true account, as a witness to what had happened. This is what happened in relation to what had occurred on 9/11/01. Now remember, 9/11/01 had happened, and Osama Bin Laden was the name that people knew. And Osama Bin Laden had been out of the news and kind of lost, and people speculated that he might be dead already. So he was not in the news at the time I was talking to this man, Shane Carter. So I'm not going to go and try to describe it again right now impromptu. I'm going to read to you what I thought through and actually wrote down specifically about that account to streamline it and summarize it as it really occurred and what he signed. So I want to share this with you now. Faith and the power of prevailing prayer. It was on the evening of 3/8/11 when a newfound former pastor friend and I were talking and reading and praying together, that a somewhat unusual prayer request came about. Now, since my time of personal tragedy and greater burden to see a wide sweeping revival, Tuesday evenings have become a special time of publicly setting aside at least an hour to emphasize praying. This night in early March was no different, except that my friend was opening up his heart to me and sharing his struggle to continue in faith despite tragedy and things not going so well for him. I empathetically listened to his concerns about his own personal tragedy, this being the glue that had also brought us together. We shared and read the Word and prepared to specially pray about all of our concerns. Now, just before we begin to pray, and maybe this bird is going to join us as it's been just crowing here, whatever that is, and is being pretty loud as an interruption, but I'm talking about praying. You know, even the animals will glorify God, and if the people of God don't stand up and praise Him, then Jesus said even the rocks would cry out. Well, He causes nature to cry out too at times. So just as we began to pray that night, I asked him, Shane, what would it take for God to show you that He is holy and just and still at work in the world today? He paused, thinking for a moment, and then suddenly blurted out, if Osama Bin Laden would be captured or killed in 60 days. A bit surprised by this rather unusual and specific request, I asked him, why would you say this? He replied, I don't know. I guess it was just the hardest thing I could think of that came to mind. I said, are you aware of any leads in finding Bin Laden, or have you recently heard any news stories? He said, no, I haven't heard anything lately. I said, I haven't either. It's been a long time since I've heard anything about this, and as far as we know, and what some have actually thought, he could even be already dead. I hesitated to commit to pray about such an unusual request. Yet as I glanced down at the scriptures we had just read, the Lord gave me peace to pray this way. I said, okay, I will commit to pray this way, and let this be a test for you and for us to see and be reminded that God, the Lord, that He is indeed holy and just, and that He is still at work in the world today. We poured out our hearts to the Lord about our own tragic situations and brought this special request before Him as the time slipped past midnight into 3/9/11. I thought, indeed, what grace it would be if that by 5/9/11 God would answer this special request and bring about this example of justice from that horrific day, 9/11/01. Wanting to solidify this test of faith in my own mind and prayers, I shared this unusual request in a specific email to a group of around 50 people, who I regularly kept updated on all that God is doing in my life and how they can help in praying. Several responded, most being hesitant to pray this way. I was uncertain whether I would have many others who were really joining me in praying about this. A couple of weeks later, after a grueling time in court, my friend moved back down to his home in Florida. We stayed in touch every week or two, and I continued to pray for God to show Himself strong and just and to bring about the capture and or death of Osama Bin Laden by 5/9/11. Well, it was on the last day of April when my friend suddenly found himself back in Blacksburg, Virginia. He was able to join me at a special creation conference commemorating the 50th anniversary of the church that was started at the beginning of the modern creation movement. Before we parted that afternoon, I asked him, "Are you still praying about that Osama Bin Laden thing?" He chuckled and said, "I had kind of forgotten about that." I replied, "I haven't forgotten. I have still been praying, and I am." Some 24 hours after this conversation, 24 Navy SEALs took part in a secret raid in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Osama bin Laden had been found, and after failing to surrender, he was shot and killed, with his body being taken away. 8 days before the 5/9/11 deadline of this test, and just after that fresh reminder, having seen Him again, the Lord answered our prevailing prayer of faith. May our thrice holy and just Creator God be glorified and praised. Accurate and true as told, Charles R. Pugh and M. Shane Carter. And this account is a true account of what happened in relation to the timing of Osama bin Laden being captured and killed. Now, friend, I don't know what needs you have in your life today. I don't know what you're praying about, but I can tell you that Jesus said to ask and you shall receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened unto you. And when Jesus said that, He said it in a tense which means keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking, continually do that. That, friend, is prevailing prayer. It's the way that Jesus cast out the demon, out of the demoniac that other people couldn't. It is prevailing with God in prayer the way Jacob did. It is the way that I was able to prevail in prayer to even see Osama Bin Laden captured within a time period that could encourage my pastor friend who was discouraged and even doubting the word at that moment. Now, thankfully, he is not doubting the Lord now. He is serving the Lord. He is encouraged, and he just got to visit the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. And it was a blessed time for him and a blessed reunion I had with him to be able to share with him what God is doing in his life and mine, and what he's doing through even the testimony that he and I share together in this instance of an unusual prayer request that led to an answer to prayer when prayer had been prevailed and God answered in a specific way. So I hope that this has been an encouraging account for you. It is exactly true as I said it, and he signed and agreed that that is true as I read it and told it and have posted. And friend, I want God to be able to answer your prayer. I want him to hear when you pray, and he does hear. I want him to answer your prayers. I want you to prevail in prayer. God doesn't hear every prayer. I'm going to talk about this in another video, maybe the next one, and when not to pray and how prayer is hindered. And you could look back on that video that I posted a couple months ago, Pray Like Never Before, and I talk about hindrances to prayer. But you can prevail in prayer, friend. You can have the power with God to prevail in prayer when you don't quit, when you keep asking, you keep seeking, you keep knocking and finding what God's will is for your life and what he wants to do, and even answering your prayers. So I hope you like this video. I hope you'll like it. I hope you'll share this video and this account as told, and even on my Facebook page. I have an account right after this that I posted a declaration to the glory and praise of God for what he did in answering this prayer. So I hope you'll subscribe to this channel. I hope you'll see what's coming next and what God shares with me. And when you subscribe, I want you to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified the next time I post another video. So I hope you'll be fed and you'll be encouraged by this and other things that I post. And thank you again for your time with me today, and praise the Lord for what he is doing in my life and your life, and pray with me for what we need to see happen in our country too.